you've been on fashion Instagram at all recently, you've probably seen this dress. It's a viral dress. It's the House of CB Mademoiselle dress, and it's gorgeous. It has underwire cups, lace trim at the bodice, adjustable spaghetti straps, midi-length skirt, and then it has a layer of tulle underneath to give it a nice shape. In a mystery box of fabric I got recently, I actually received a fabric really similar to this ballerina pink color, so I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to make something similar, because this one is $300, which is way too much. So luckily, Daria Patternmaking just released a new pattern. It's called the Daydreamer strap dress. The design of the bodice is slightly different. This one is princess seams, not an underwire, but the skirt length and overall feel of the design is similar. It's got those adjustable spaghetti straps, and I love the lace trim. It kind of reminds me of the bust of the Mademoiselle dress. So really excited to make this pattern. So first I just made a little rough sketch of what I hope this dress will look like. I'm planning on making the skirt a little bit fuller, so that is a design change that I'll show you. And I'll get into it, but first make sure you subscribe. I do pattern reviews, sewing process videos, and I'd love if you stay tuned. So this is the fabric. I got this in the mystery box. The mystery box was $10, by the way, and it came with tons of fabric. Printed the pattern and I started assembling it. One really nice thing I've noticed about Daria Patternmaking's patterns is that it always takes me way less time to assemble them than other patterns. I don't know if it's just the way she lays things out, but it's very quick. So if you've never made a PDF pattern before, don't be intimidated. She makes it really easy. So here I'm just cutting apart the pattern pieces. I think I did this in maybe half an hour in total, and those are all the pieces. So taking my muslin fabric, I'm gonna make the first draft of the pattern, adding 3 inches to the skirt pieces because I'm tall, and just cutting out the rest of the pieces. They have finished garment measurements that you can use to gauge your size. I made a size 6A based on the measurements, and overall, I mean, you'll see how it fits pretty well, but there were some things I had to change. And then inserting the zipper. So here's the first draft. Really sweet dress, and it fits pretty well. It's a little tight. I could zip it up all the way. It just looks like I couldn't. I don't know why. But as you can see, there's some pulling lines across the bust, which I'll have to address. The princess seams are also a little bit too close together for my body, so I decided to move them over and also add a little bit more width in the bust. I also needed to lower the waist. This is to be expected because I'm tall, and I forgot to lengthen the bodice pieces. The skirt, this is an embarrassing clip, but the skirt was also not quite wide enough for what I wanted, so I wrote that down in my list of adjustments to make. I need to be able to play cello in this dress, so to do this adjustment, I cut slits in the muslin and then sat down and measured and wrote down how much extra fabric I will need. Make sure you mark where you measured as well. Then you're going to draw some lines in the pattern piece. There's 4 lines there, and you're going to cut down all of them right to the very edge, but not through the top. And then you spread the pieces apart to your desired width. It's called the slash and spread method. And then I also lengthened the bodice pieces. This is a very easy adjustment to make. This is the aftermath of fitting. It always leaves such a mess, but I cleaned this up before starting. Next, I'm just washing my fabric. This is a poly satin, so it doesn't really need to be washed, but I thought, why not make my dress machine washable? And I also put it in the dryer. Now I'm just folding it right sides together and laying my pattern pieces down. You know the drill. I'm just going to pin around the edge of the pattern and then cut it out. Even though it's a thick satin, it is weirdly see-through. So I'm going to be self-lining the skirt. For the pockets, this was also from the mystery box. I just chose a neutral color. And here's all the pieces. You can see I just basically have 2 of the same of everything because I'm self-lining it. And here's my sewing space, nice and cute. This is chalk paper, so now I have to test marking. I always test it on a random piece first before marking the actual thing. In this case, it worked pretty well, so I did that. And next, I'm using interfacing. So with Daria's patterns, she likes to use these kind of rolls of interfacing, so you probably will need to buy those if you're going to make her patterns. They're not very expensive, but just letting you know. Now I'm just selecting some light pink thread to go with my project, and then also a needle. I was going to use the 80 size, but then last minute I was like, you know what, I only have 2 of those left, let me use a 90. But I really regret that. I think it would have given me better results if I had gone with a thinner needle and a more sharp needle at that too. Okay, just pinning and sewing the princess seams. Make sure you pay attention to the seam allowance. For Daria's patterns, it's 1 centimeter. Okay, and then just pressing around the curve using my silk organza press cloth. And now I don't have a bust pressing ham, but what I used instead, and it worked fairly well, it was a what is this called? A dryer ball, a wool dryer ball. So you can try that. It's cheaper than buying the ham. And a silk organza press cloth is so nice because you can see through it. And there we go. The instructions say to clip into the seam at the curve, but I just trim it, and at least if you're a small bust, it works fine. Just because I find that those little triangles always show. Next up, I'm sewing the darts. So using those markings, you're gonna match the edges and then press, and you want to make sure that this crease that you're making is in the center of the triangle. So you can redo it if it's not. Then you sew from the edge of the fabric to the point of the dart, and the traditional way is to knot the end of it. Gotta make sure to press. My tension was okay, but I had a little bit of issues. It wasn't perfect. Honestly, I think it was the needle. So just take my advice, use a really small and sharp needle for satin, even if the satin's heavy. Now the last step of the bodice, I'm just sewing up the side seams. So basically attaching the back to those front pieces that we already made. Give it a good press and press the seams open. Here I have 2 of the same bodice, and you can see actually the lining fabric is slightly different. It's like really similar, but there is a difference, so just pointing that out. So next up are the pockets. Actually, in this clip, I'm making a mistake. I'm actually sewing, instead of between the notches, I'm just sewing the whole length of the pocket onto the skirt, which you're not supposed to do. So don't do that. The instructions are clear. Just make sure you read them. It's been a while, or maybe even the first time that I've sewed a unlined skirt with pocket, so it was deceivingly confusing for me, but I got there in the end. It was fine. So I'm just pinning the pocket bag pieces together now, and then you're going to sew around this and finish the edges. Okay, giving it a little press, and then you're going to finish the pocket by sewing the side seam. I actually got a little tuck there, which can happen, but I was able to get rid of it with this unpicker. This is a new one I got. It's the Clover one, and it's really comfortable. And there you go. Looks nice. Then you, of course, press. I always like to include my pressing steps to show you. And add some little bar tacks, and there you go. They're a little on the small side for my hands, but it's okay. Okay, so here are my 2 skirts. I have the lining fabric and then the main fabric. The main fabric one has the pockets in it. And now I'm just going to attach the bodices to their respective skirts. So the lining skirt to the lining bodice, and the same thing for the main fabric. This is an important step to get right. I like to hand baste it because you really want the seams on the bodice to match up with the seams on the skirt. And I did an okay job. It's not 100% perfect, but you know, that's good enough for me. Next up is the zipper. So measure how long your zipper is and put a pin there, because the bottom of that you're going to sew together. Now, a great tip for installing invisible zippers is to press the zipper teeth open, and you can melt the zipper teeth, so be careful, but also really try and get it open, because the more open you can get it, the better result I find. Then I just pin it onto the skirt. And another step that I never skip, now that I've learned how, is hand basting the zipper on. It just gives you a lot of control, and it makes the actual stitching of the zipper way less stressful. Another very important thing is the invisible zipper foot. Totally worth it. And you can see it just goes right over the zipper teeth and gets you right in there beside it, which is key to making it invisible. So you sew like that, and then you mark on the zipper tape where the center, where that waist seam is. So mark that on both sides of the zipper tape so that you can match up and that your zipper is even on both sides. Then you just repeat everything for the other side, and your waist seams should line up. Oh, looks so good. I was actually very proud of this zipper because it was one of the most invisible zippers that I've made. Then at the bottom of the zipper, you're going to just kind of take this center back seam and sew as far up as you can below the zipper, because otherwise there will be a little hole there. So just go as far as you can. Next up are the straps. So you get these rectangular pieces and you have to fold them in on each other like this, and then fold in half again. Using a wooden clapper is really helpful for this as well. And then you just top stitch. Now, to make these adjustable, you have to do some more work. If you hear a squeaking, it's a bird. I'm recording outside, so apologies for that. So here I'm just cutting off a little bit of the strap to make these little loops. And I just follow the instructions to put the strap on the sliders. It's pretty clear. Just make sure you've got the two mirror images. And then here's my main fabric dress, and I'm going to attach the lining dress to it. This is one of my favorite steps because it's when everything kind of comes together. So you just pin along the top edge where those straps are. And then you sew. Now here I'm clipping into the seam allowance, which I earlier said that I don't like to do because it shows through, and I did find this showed through a little bit, but I was nervous about skipping it. So let me know if you've skipped this step and how it turns out, because you can see them a little bit in the final garment, and I don't love that. Of course, it depends on your fabric. So, and next up I'm understitching. Very important step. You can't get really close on the straps. You just have to go as far as you can, if that makes sense. Basically just start sewing, and then once you're not able to pull the fabric flat anymore, then stop and backstitch and go from where you can do that again. Here you can see my understitching stops by the straps. Okay, next I'm going to sew the lining to the zipper. So I just fold it so that the right side of the lining is facing the zipper. And I've done this on other dresses before with an invisible zipper foot, and it never works. I'm never able to close the zipper. So what I found works, and I don't know if this is like the proper way, but instead of the invisible zipper foot to attach the lining, I just use the regular zipper foot. So in my case, it's foot E, I think. And so I'm not super close to the zipper teeth, but it really does not matter. So for me, that's what works. Then, so exciting, you get to flip your skirt, the lining to the inside, and it becomes a dress. And there I am, just closing the zipper. So exciting. I must have made a mistake though, because when I flipped this over, the top of that zipper is so pointy like that. So, I mean, if you know what it is, let me know, but I'll just be more careful next time I make this dress, because this hasn't happened to me in previous dresses. So next up is a step that Daria says do not skip. And this is hand basting the facing or the lining of the bodice down. You stick your needle in the seam and then make sure that it's coming out on the bodice on the other side. Then you can stitch in the ditch comfortably and it will look really neat on the inside. I don't know about this angle. So then I just put my dress on the mannequin. Looks pretty nice because I'm letting the skirt hang for a few days before I hem it. I got this lace trim for the hem from Bra Maker Supply in Burlington, and it's non-stretch. And if you do a lace like this that's got more holes in it, just make sure to do a zigzag. I'm just showing you a little test piece because the actual thing took me probably 2 hours. It took so long because I had to go slow because this lace is thick and I didn't want to break a needle. Well, I did break a needle, but I didn't want to break multiple needles. Anyway, so after 2 hours of stitching, I was finally done with it. To do that center back seam, you just leave little tails on each side of the seam and then measure where that seam is and then sew the lace together. I had to go really slow, you can see, because this lace was no joke. Then I'm using my band roll method for the narrow hem. It's not my method, but I just use it a lot because it's amazing. You should definitely try it. And sewing the lining hem took like a quarter of the time. It took like half an hour, maybe. And that's including pressing and everything, versus the 2 hours of the main fabric. And I was able to go very fast. And you just pull the band roll out and it's like very satisfying. Very fun. And you have a beautiful narrow hem. This one's not even going to show though, so it doesn't matter. So in total, this dress only cost me $23.50. That's a lot better than the $300 for the House of CB dress. It's like 90% savings. Okay, so now it's time for the reveal. I think this dress turned out really well. I'm very happy with it. I'm really happy with my decision to self-line it. I think it makes the skirt so much more luxurious feeling and looking as well. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is use the right size needle, use a small needle if you can, and pay attention to how pockets are made. Okay, if you made it this far, like the video. I love to see when people have watched the whole thing, and yeah, I have some more stuff coming, so stay tuned for that. Have a great day.